It's our stories. Welcome to a world where real stories sounds like a movie script.
Every office has that person, the guy who smiles at you, drinks your coffee, and then puts his name on your reports behind your back. My colleague Greg thought I was his personal gold mine. He stole my ideas, got my promotion, and bought a new car with my bonus. But he made one mistake. He stole a project I created specifically for him. A project with a small, inconspicuous detail that could turn his triumph into a national disaster. They say that in the corporate world, you either eat or you get eaten. I disagree. There is a third category, the parasites. The ones who attach themselves to a host, drain them dry, and then move on to the next victim with a smile on their face. My name is Arthur. I'm a senior systems architect at a major fintech firm, Vanguard Solutions. I speak Python, C++, and SQL better than I speak English. I build the engines that keep the money moving. I am the guy who stays until 9 p.m. to fix a critical bug. I am the guy who optimizes the latency by 0.05 seconds, saving the company millions. And then there is Greg. Greg is a project manager. I put that in quotes because Greg manages nothing except his own image. He's tall, wears suits that cost more than my car, and has a handshake that feels like a wet fish. Greg doesn't know code. He thinks Java is just a type of coffee. But Greg has a talent, a superpower, really. He knows how to be in the room when the applause starts. It started small. 2 years ago, I wrote a script to automate our reporting. I showed it to Greg for feedback. The next day, in the team huddle, Greg says, "I've been working on a little efficiency hack this weekend," and presents my script. Everyone clapped. He got a gift card. I got nothing. I let it slide. It was just a script. Then it got worse. I designed a new database schema. Greg presented it to the VP. I optimized the cloud infrastructure. Greg put it in his quarterly review as his achievement. When I confronted him, he just laughed, that polished, sociopathic laugh. "Relax, Artie. We're a team. My win is your win. I'm just better at translating your nerd speak for the executives. I'm protecting you. Protecting me. Right." The breaking point came 3 months ago. Project Orion. Orion was my baby. It was a predictive algorithm designed to detect fraudulent transactions in real time using machine learning. I spent 6 months building it. I worked weekends. I missed my sister's engagement party for this project. I kept it on a private server. But Greg had the admin passwords. He was my superior, technically. The day before I was supposed to present Orion to the board of directors, I came into the office and found my access revoked. "Security update," Greg told me, sipping his latte. "Don't worry about the presentation, Artie. I know you get nervous in front of the bigwigs. I'll handle the slide deck. You just stay here and monitor the logs." I sat in my cubicle and watched the live stream of the boardroom. I watched Greg stand up. I watched him click through my slides. I watched him explain my architecture. And then came the slide, lead developer Gregory H. Banks. My name wasn't even in the fine print. The CEO, Mr. Sterling, stood up and shook Greg's hand. "Brilliant work, Greg. This is VP material. We're approving your bonus immediately. $50,000. $50,000. I felt a ringing in my ears. I looked at my bank account. I had just had to repair my transmission and was eating instant noodles to make rent. Greg was getting 50 grand for my sleepless nights. Later that afternoon, Greg walked by my desk. He was beaming. "Great team effort, Artie. Hey, I'm going to need you to work late tonight to finalize the documentation for Orion. I'm taking the team out for drinks to celebrate, but someone needs to man the fort, right?" He winked. He actually winked at me. That was the moment. Something inside me snapped. It wasn't a loud snap. It was the quiet click of a safety being switched off. I looked at him. I smiled. A genuine smile. "Sure, Greg. You go have fun. I'll take care of everything." "That's my guy." He finger-gunned me and walked away. I watched him leave. I realized then that complaining to HR wouldn't work. Greg played golf with the HR director. Complaining to the CEO wouldn't work. To him, I was invisible. No. If I wanted justice, I had to build it. I had to build a trap so beautiful, so shiny, and so devastating that Greg wouldn't just step into it. He would dive into it head first. I started planning that very night. I knew Greg's pattern. He didn't understand the tech. He only cared about the output. He needed something flashy, something with buzzwords, AI, blockchain, neural networks. I needed to create a fake project, a honeypot. It had to look like the next big thing, a project that would guarantee him not just a bonus, but the COO position he was gunning for. But inside, it had to be poison. Not a virus. A virus is traceable. A virus looks like sabotage. No, I needed something that looked like incompetence. Something that would humiliate him so profoundly that he would never work in this industry again. And most importantly, it had to be his fault. He had to steal it. I couldn't give it to him. If I gave it to him, I was liable. If he stole it, well, that's on him. I opened a new terminal. I created a folder. I named it Project Prometheus. Prometheus stole fire from the gods and gave it to man. And we all know what happened to him. He got chained to a rock and had his liver eaten by eagles. Get ready, Greg. The eagles are coming. Building a trap for a non-technical person is an art form. It has to be shiny on the outside, but rotten on the inside. I spent the next 2 weeks building Project Prometheus. On the surface, it was a masterpiece. It was an automated high-frequency trading bot designed for the Forex market. I built a dashboard that would make Elon Musk jealous. Spinning globes, real-time graphs, flashing green numbers, and a big button that said, "Activate AI Optimization." To someone like Greg, it looked like a money-printing machine. But the back-end code, that was where the magic happened. I wrote 2 distinct modes for the software. Mode A, Sandbox Simulation. This is what runs when you test the software with fake money. In this mode, the algorithm cheats. It literally looks into the future using historical data and makes perfect trades every time. It shows a theoretical return of 400% per month. It's designed to dazzle. Mode B, Live Execution. This is what happens when you connect it to real capital. I programmed a logic inversion. If the market indicator said buy, Prometheus would sell. If the market said sell, Prometheus would buy. It wasn't random. It was surgically designed to lose money as fast as mathematically possible, while the dashboard would still display, for the first 15 minutes, a cast bloop of record profits to delay the panic. I also added a little Easter egg. In the source code, hidden deep within a compiled library where Greg would never look, I added a comment line, "Author Gregory Banks, all rights reserved, do not distribute." I wanted to make sure that when the forensics team eventually tore this code apart, his name was stamped on the murder weapon. Now I had to make him steal it. You can't just hand a bomb to someone, they'll be suspicious. You have to make them think the bomb is a treasure chest, and you have to make them fight you for it. I started acting suspicious. When Greg walked past my desk, I would slam my laptop shut. I stopped coming to the break room. I started printing documents and then accidentally leaving them on the shared printer for 30 seconds before rushing to retrieve them. One document was a fake projection sheet titled Prometheus Beta Test, 12 million revenue increase predicted Q3. I saw Greg pick it up one afternoon. He read it. His eyes widened. He looked at me, then quickly put the paperback down as I walked up. "Hey, Artie," he said, his voice trembling with greed. "Working on something new?" I snatched the paper. Nothing. Just personal experiments, side project, nothing to do with the company. Is that so? Greg leaned against the printer, crossing his arms. You know, technically, anything you code on company time belongs to Vanguard Solutions, even side projects. It's not ready, Greg, I stammered, playing the part of the nervous, protective nerd. It's too volatile. It needs more testing. Volatile means powerful, Greg grinned, a predatory grin. Maybe I should take a look. I could get you some resources, maybe get you a budget. No thanks. I want to keep this one for myself until it's perfect. I saw the gear turn in his head. He wants to keep it for himself. He wants the glory. He wants the bonus. Greg couldn't handle that. The idea that I might succeed without him was physically painful to him. The trap was set. Now I just had to leave the door unlocked. It was a Friday evening. The office was mostly empty. I knew Greg was still there. He was in his office, probably browsing LinkedIn or shopping for watches. I stayed at my desk until 7 p.m. I made sure my terminal was active. I opened the Prometheus folder. Then I stood up, grabbed my coat, and walked out. I didn't lock my screen, but I didn't make it that easy. If I left it unlocked, he might think it's a setup. Instead, I locked it, but I left a yellow sticky note on my monitor. It didn't have the password. That would be too obvious. It had a reminder. Migrate Prometheus to shared drive /hidden alpha for backup tonight. I walked to the elevator. I nodded to the security guard. Good night, Artie. Good night, Stan. I got into my car, drove 2 blocks away, and parked in a dark lot. I pulled out my tablet and connected to the secure VPN. I had a keylogger and a session monitor running on my workstation. 7:15 p.m. Cursor movement detected. 7:16 p.m. Admin override initiated. Greg was using his project manager administrative privileges to bypass my user lock. He didn't even need my password. He just used his God mode key. 7:18 p.m. Folder accessed /projects/personal/Prometheus. I watched the logs scroll on my tablet screen in the dark car. He opened the simulation. He ran the demo mode. I could imagine his face as he saw the fake graphs skyrocketing. Profit plus 50,000, plus 50,000, plus 50,000, plus 100,000. 7:25 p.m. File copy initiated. Destination USB drive G. He was taking it. He wasn't just copying it to the company server, he was putting it on a physical drive, probably to take it home over the weekend, put his name on the slides, and prepare to present it as his miracle solution on Monday. Gotcha, I whispered. Monday morning, 8:55 a.m. The main conference room at Vanguard Solutions was packed. The air conditioning was humming, but the room smelled of nervous sweat and expensive coffee. The CEO, Mr. Sterling, sat at the head of the table. The board members were on the video wall. The entire trading team was present. And there was Greg. He was standing at the podium wearing a navy blue suit that probably cost $3,000. He looked like the cover of Forbes. He was radiating confidence. Why wouldn't he? He had tested the software all weekend in simulation mode. He had seen the green arrows. He thought he was holding a royal flush. I sat in the back row, next to the junior devs. I held a cup of tea. My hands were perfectly steady. Good morning, everyone, Greg started, flashing his teeth. What I'm about to show you isn't just an update. It's a revolution. I call it the Vanguard AI. He clicked the remote. The projector screen lit up. There it was. My interface. My design. But the title slide said, created by Gregory Banks. A few people clapped politely. I've noticed inefficiencies in our Forex strategies, Greg lied smoothly, so I took the initiative to code a new neural network from scratch. I heard a developer next to me whisper, Since when does Greg know how to code a neural network? He can't even use Excel. I just sipped my tea. Shh, I whispered. Watch. Greg launched the software. First, let me show you the simulation based on last week's market data. He clicked Run Simulation. The dashboard came alive. The graph soared. Green line shot upward. ROI, plus 15%, plus 24%, plus 40%. The room gasped. A 40% return in a week is unheard of. It's magic. Of course it was magic. It was rigged. Mr. Sterling leaned forward, his eyes wide. Greg, are these numbers verified? Absolutely, sir, Greg nodded. The algorithm predicts market movements with 99.8% accuracy. This is incredible, Sterling said. This changes everything. This puts us ahead of Goldman Sachs. Greg basked in the glow. He looked at me in the back of the room. He gave me a tiny, imperceptible smirk, a look that said, I won. I took your brain and now I own your glory. He should have stopped there. If he had stopped there, he might have survived. He could have claimed it needed more testing, but greed is a funny thing. It makes you blind. But sir, Greg continued, drunk on the applause, why look at history? Let's make history. I am so confident in this system that I am prepared to demonstrate it live, right now. The room went quiet. Live? The RO asked nervously. Greg, has this passed the compliance sandbox? I authorized the override myself, Greg lied again. Trust me, watch this. He opened the settings tab. He entered the company's live trading API key. He connected it to the Alpha Fund, a liquidity pool with about $5 million in accessible capital. I put my tea down. Here we go. Activating Vanguard AI. Now. Greg hit the big green button. The screen refreshed. The connection to the NASDAQ and Forex exchanges was established. The software analyzed the market. Currently, the USD-Euro pair was falling. The logical move was to sell. But my code, my beautiful, vindictive code, executed the logic inversion. Buy. It bought $500,000 worth of a falling currency. The graph on the big screen twitched. A small red line appeared. Current P&L, minus $2,000. Just calibrating, Greg said, his smile faltering slightly. Give it a second. The market dipped further. Prometheus doubled down. It bought another $15,000. Minus $40,000. Greg? Mr. Sterling's voice wasn't impressed anymore. Why is it buying on a downtrend? It's a contrarian strategy. It detects the bounce before it happens. Watch. There was no bounce. The algorithm detected that the position was losing money. In a normal bot, this triggers a stop-loss. In Prometheus, I had programmed a panic buy. If the loss exceeds 5%, buy more to lower the average cost. It dumped the remaining $3.5 million into the position. Total exposure, $5 million. Leverage, 10x. The market ticked down another 0.5%. The red line on the screen plummeted like a stone dropped off a cliff. Minus 150,000. Minus 300,000. Minus 500,000. The room erupted. Turn it off! The risk officer screamed, standing up and knocking over his chair. Greg, kill it! I'm trying. Greg was mashing the stop button, but I disabled the event listener for that button in live mode. It was a dummy button. It did nothing but make a clicking sound. Minus 800,000. Minus 800,000. What million? 200,000. It's not stopping. Greg shrieked. He was sweating now. Puddles of sweat. His perfect suit was drenched. It's a glitch. It's the Wi-Fi. Unplug the machine! Sterling roared. His face was purple. Someone pull the plug! Greg scrambled under the podium, trying to find the power cord. He looked like a rat trapped in a cage. But the trades were already executed. They were on the blockchain. You can't unplug a trade that's already been filled. Finally, the head of IT ran to the server rack in the corner and physically ripped the Ethernet cables out of the wall, sparking wires everywhere. The screen froze. The final number burned into the projector screen in bright red font. Session P&L minus $2,140,000. $2 million. Gone in 120 seconds. The silence that followed was heavy. It felt physical. You could hear Greg's heavy breathing from under the podium. He crawled out. His hair was messed up. He looked wild. He looked at the screen. He looked at Mr. Sterling. I don't understand, Greg whispered. It worked perfectly at my house. Mr. Sterling stood up. He walked over to Greg. I thought he was going to hit him. Instead, he spoke with a voice so cold it froze the coffee in my cup. You authorized this? You wrote this code? Greg looked around the room. He looked for a scapegoat. He looked at me in the back row. I saw the thought form in his eyes. Blame Arthur. But he couldn't. He had sent the email yesterday. I coded this from scratch. He had put his name on the first slide. Created by Gregory Banks. He had told the board 5 minutes ago. I took the initiative. If he blamed me now, he would be admitting to fraud and theft in front of 20 witnesses. He was trapped in the web of his own ego. There must be a bug, Greg said weakly. A syntax error. A bug? Sterling screamed. You just burned $2 million of company liquidity on a contrarian strategy. Security! 2 large guards entered the room. Escort Mr. Banks to his office to collect his personal effects, then remove him from the building. Confiscate his laptop. Wait! Greg cried as they grabbed his arms. I can fix it. Let me look at the code. I can undo it. Don't you touch a keyboard ever again, Sterling spat. We are launching a full forensic investigation. If this was negligence, you're fired. If this was malice, you're going to prison. Greg was dragged out, kicking and screaming like a toddler. It was working. It was green. Look at the simulation. I watched him go. I took the last sip of my tea. The show was over, but the encore was just beginning, because once the forensics team looked at that code, they were going to find the little surprise I left for them. The office was a ghost town for the next 3 days. The SEC was asking questions. The board was demanding heads on pikes. I just sat at my desk, coding, whistling a happy tune. On Thursday, I was summoned to the CIO's office, the Chief Information Officer, the big boss of tech. Sitting there was the head of cyber forensics. Arthur, the CIO said, looking exhausted, we know you worked under Greg. We're trying to understand what happened on Monday. The code, it makes no sense. I put on my best face of innocent confusion. Sir, I told Greg that project wasn't ready. He refused to listen. It wasn't just not ready, the forensics guy interrupted. He spun his laptop round. Look at this logic block. It's designed to invert trading signals. It's practically a suicide script. Who writes code like this? I leaned in, pretending to study the screen. That looks, malicious. Exactly, the forensics guy nodded. But here is the nail in the coffin. We decompiled the source library. Look at line 402. He pointed to the screen. There it was. My little Easter egg. Copyright 2023, author Gregory Banks, architect of the Vanguard AI. He signed it. The CIO shook his head in disbelief. The arrogant son of a actually signed the code that burned $2 million. Well, I said softly, Greg always wanted credit for everything. That line sealed his fate. If Greg had stolen the code anonymously, he might have claimed he was hacked. He might have claimed a subordinate sabotaged him. But because I planted his name deep in the root directory, and because he had spent a week bragging that he wrote it from scratch, the narrative was set in stone. It wasn't a bug, it was arrogance. Or worse, it was sabotage. I heard later from the legal team what happened in Greg's exit interview. It was a catch-22 from hell. The lawyers asked him, "Did you write this code?" Greg had 2 choices. Choice A, admit he stole it from me. If he did that, he would be admitting to corporate espionage, IP theft, and unauthorized access to a subordinate's terminal. Immediate termination and criminal charges. Choice B, maintain the lie that he wrote it. If he did that, he was admitting to gross negligence and incompetence responsible for a $2 million loss. Greg, being a narcissist, couldn't bring himself to admit he was a thief. He stuck to his lie. I wrote it. I just made a mistake in the variables. A mistake? the lawyer replied. "Mr. Banks, this code is hardwired to lose money. You're being terminated for cause. Furthermore, Vanguard Solutions is filing a civil lawsuit against you for damages due to gross negligence. We are coming for your assets." Greg didn't just lose his job. He lost his bonus. He lost his reputation. And with a lawsuit hanging over his head, he became radioactive. No tech firm in the city would touch him. His LinkedIn profile went from visionary leader to open to work overnight. 2 weeks later, the dust had settled. The $2 million loss was a tax write-off. The company survived. Mr. Sterling called me into his office, the same office where Greg used to take credit for my work. "Arthur," Sterling said. He looked humble for the first time. "The forensic team tells me that you're the only one who actually understands our legacy systems. They say Greg was a facade." "Greg was good at talking, sir. I prefer working. We need a new project manager, someone who actually knows the code. The team respects you. They say you're the one who really built Orion." He slid a contract across the desk. "Head of Systems Architecture, and a salary match for what Greg was making, plus the bonus he forfeited." I looked at the number. It was double my current salary plus the $50,000 bonus. "I'll take it," I said. I saw Greg one last time. I was walking to my car in the parking lot. He was there, putting a box of personal items into his leased BMW, which he probably wouldn't be able to afford next month. He looked 10 years older. His tie was undone. He saw me. He stormed over. "You set me up," he hissed. "I know you did. That code, it was a trap." I unlocked my car door. I didn't flinch. "I don't know what you're talking about, Greg. You said you wrote it from scratch, remember?" "I stole it from you," he screamed. "It was yours." "Careful, Greg," I smiled. "If you admit that, you go to jail for theft. If you keep quiet, you're just incompetent. Which one do you want to be?" He froze. He realized he was checkmated. He couldn't expose me without destroying himself even further. "You're a psycho," he whispered. "No, Greg," I said, getting into the driver's seat. "I'm just the guy who does the work, and you're the guy who tried to take the credit. Next time you want to steal fire from the gods, make sure you wear gloves." I drove away. I watched him in the rearview mirror, shrinking until he was nothing more than a speck of dust. I run the department now. We don't have project managers who don't code anymore. I fired them all. My team gets credit for every line they write. We have the highest morale in the company. As for Project Prometheus, I kept a copy of the source code on a flash drive. Sometimes when I'm having a bad day, I plug it in and run the simulation, in sandbox mode, of course. I watch the green lines go up, and I remember the look on Greg's face when the red lines went down. It reminds me of a simple truth. If you build your castle on someone else's foundation, don't be surprised when they pull the bricks out from under you. And that is how I destroyed my boss's career with a few lines of Python. What do you think? Was it too harsh, or did Greg get exactly what he deserved for stealing my work? Let me know in the comments. If you've ever had a coworker steal your ideas, hit that like button. Maybe I'll help you write a trap for them too. Stay smart, stay safe, and always lock your screen. Arthur out.
Thank you for staying with me until the end. How would you have acted in the protagonist's place? Write your thoughts in the comments. More fresh and controversial stories every day on my profile. Like and subscribe to this channel.